Hey guys, it's Melanie. Welcome back. I hope you're having a great day. So today's video is one that I have had on my little to-do list for quite some time. It is going to be my top tips and tricks for getting the most out of your personal fragrances, your perfumes, your eau de parfums, your eau de toilettes, all of those kinds of things. I am obviously a huge lover of personal fragrance. Most of my channel revolves around home fragrance these days. So I am just super passionate about personal fragrance. I feel like I have been for much of my life. I can remember being a little girl, and when I would go to the store with my mom, if I, came across a woman who was wearing a beautiful perfume, I just remember always thinking oh, I can't wait to be a grown-up and to wear fancy lady scents. I just always equated wearing perfume with being a fancy lady for some reason. And as someone who definitely embraces my feminine side, I love it. I think that perfume is something that can really help to change your mood. I think it can be a wonderful memory trigger. I mean, there are several fragrances that I have in my collection that I would consider my signature fragrances. So for example, one of my all-time favorites is Stella by Stella McCartney. I actually named my daughter Stella because I loved that perfume so much around the time that she was born. Also, I wore Philosophy Falling in Love on my wedding day, and so usually on our anniversary each year, that is the perfume that I wear, and it just brings me back to that day. And it was obviously one of the happiest days in my life, and I just love the memory trigger. I love how perfume can elevate my mood when I'm feeling down. I just absolutely love personal fragrance. I do understand that it's not for everybody, so if you clicked on this video and you don't like perfume, I would not recommend watching the rest of this. But I'm assuming if you're here, you're probably looking to learn how to get the most out of your personal fragrance. So these are actually tips and tricks, and I did write some notes to myself. These are some tips and tricks that I have learned over the years. A lot of these I actually learned way back in 1997. So I took a gap year between high school and college to work and earn some money. I worked at Garden Botanica full-time, and then I also had a part-time job. All I did was work that year. I also had a part-time job at a department store. It was the Bon Marché. They had, I worked at a cosmetics counter, and then they obviously also have all of the perfume counters, just like Macy's does nowadays. So I would oftentimes, go over to the perfumes and just kind of sniff through, and I really kind of connected with one of the older associates that had been working there for a number of years, and she taught me a lot of these tips and tricks to get the most out of my personal fragrance. And also, since I was getting a paycheck, that's when I really started getting into collecting perfumes. I'm sure I made her commissions for that year that I was working. But she was fantastic, and I just learned so much from her. So these are things that I've been doing for years that really helped me get the most out of my collection. If you are curious about my actual perfume collection, I think it was either in 2021 or maybe it was at the beginning of this year, I filmed my current collection video. I don't remember when. It has changed slightly since then because I've added some fragrances, obviously. So I will link that video in the description box down below if you are curious. But I do have quite an extensive collection. And one thing that I will say, after collecting all these fragrances, one thing that I would advise you if you are just getting started is to not necessarily always purchase the full size. Now, if you have a signature fragrance or something that you really love that you are going to get through, I would actually suggest starting with roller balls or the smaller sprays that you can get, or the 1 ounce size, instead of just going in ham with the full 3.4 ounce size of your favorite fragrance, or a fragrance that you think might become your favorite. Because who knows, maybe after a year you're ugh, I'm kind of over this, and then you're still stuck with a super expensive bottle of perfume that now you're not going to wear. So I think if you are looking to build a collection, definitely make sure that you are purchasing the smaller sizes, because here's the thing, if you finish one, that's okay. One, it feels amazing to finish a perfume, but two, you can always go back and repurchase it. Most fragrances I feel like are around for years. Now, if you know something's being discontinued, it might be worth picking up a backup, but for the most part, most fragrances stick around for a number of years, so you can always go back and purchase another one. So before we get into the tips and tricks, I thought it would be good to kind of break down the different types of perfumes, if you will. So this is in order of like strongest to weakest form, if you will. So at the very top, you are going to find the pure like Perfume. This is usually around 20% concentration of the fragrance oils. It's going to be the most intense. It's probably going to be the longest lasting, and also the most expensive. So I don't think that I have any perfumes in my collection. The vast majority of my collection is the next level, which is the eau de parfum. That's really what I tend to purchase the most of. That is somewhere between a 10 and 20% concentration of fragrance oils. Next, after that is the eau de toilette. This has around 10% concentration. And then you have cologne at 5%, and then body sprays like this one here from Scentworks that only has about 1 to 3%. So definitely a much smaller concentration. Body sprays don't last a very long time. We all know that. They're kind of fun. They're a fun thing to pop in your purse and sort of refresh yourself with. But if you are looking for any type of longevity, I would say stick in the realm of either the eau de parfum or the eau de toilette. I think that the pure Perfume is worth it for signature fragrances, but I wouldn't say go out and buy like the pure Perfume of every single thing that you love, because again, quite frankly, they are quite a bit more expensive. And if it turns out they sort of turn sour on you over the years, or you just don't like the fragrance anymore, you don't want to be stuck with like a $300 bottle of perfume that you are not able to get through. Hello, sir. If you're new here, that's Alf. He's my pug. Okay, just a quick tip on storage. This is super important, you guys. Perfumes do go bad. I've had a number of perfumes in my collection that I've had for years, and they still smell pretty close to the original, but the perfumes do change over the years. The very best thing you can do is to store them in a cool, dark, dry environment. So for me, that happens to be my master closet. We have some really nice built-ins that the people who built this house put in there, and the corner unit with the shelves is perfect for me to store my perfumes. That particular room is air conditioned in the summer. It's a rather large closet. It's the reason that we bought this house. At least that was my reason. Craig's was the backyard. But so we have a vent in there for heating and cooling. So in the summer, the vent is open for the air conditioning. But in the winter, I do close the vent to try to keep it as cool as possible in there. And the very worst thing that you can do for your perfumes is to store them in direct sunlight. If you like displaying your perfumes on either a vanity or in your bathroom, just know that it could decrease the life of your fragrance overall. Exposure to light is a big no-no. Exposure to heat and humidity is a big no-no. So as much as I like having fun little displays of perfumes, and I love a lot of the bottles, like I'm a big sucker for the aesthetics of perfume bottles, I also feel like it's more important to preserve them. And so I think storing in a closet is really ideal, especially if that closet is nice and dark and cool. Obviously, if it's like damp and musty in there, that's not a good closet to pick. Basement, probably not a good location, but just find an area in your house that doesn't have a lot of sun exposure, and put your personal fragrances there. You're gonna get a lot more life out of them that way. So I have had to toss perfumes in the past because, you know, after maybe like 6 or 7 years, they definitely can go downhill. But there are some that I've had for, you know, like there are perfumes in my collection that I've had for like 8 years. And while they smell a little bit different from the original, I'm still fine wearing them. Maybe the longevity is affected a little bit and the fragrances kind of change over time, but they still smell good on me, so I still wear them. I am not one to toss a perfume if I don't feel like I have to, but the storage of your personal fragrances really is key, so keep that in mind. Let's talk about the best time to apply. So really the very best time is straight out of the shower. Your skin is wet. It's just more likely to accept the fragrance and hang on to it than when your skin is dry. Another thing that I think is really, really helpful that I do every single day is I pair my perfumes with body lotions. So one way to do this is to use the body lotion that comes with your perfume. A lot of times if you receive one as a gift, you get like the matching body lotion. So just in the areas where you're applying your perfume or your eau de toilette or whatever, just rub a little bit of that lotion, let that sort of sit for a minute and then spritz over that. Don't ever rub the fragrance together. I am one that still does like the tapping. You don't even need to do that, but it's just a habitual thing for me. I've been doing it since I was a little girl because I thought that's what you were supposed to, and I just can't break the habit. But ideally just spray, leave it. Don't rub it. Don't like, you know, massage it in. You don't need to do any of that. Also, just a fragrance-free lotion. Pick a nice unscented body lotion, put that all over right after the shower, and then go in and spray. And that is going to give you a lot more longevity to your fragrance. Trust me, it makes a big difference. Also, I like to play with my different fragrance body lotions. I have a lot of body lotions that smell like vanilla or smell like cake, and I love pairing those with some of my vanilla-based fragrances. Even if the fragrances aren't super similar, you can really kind of create a new fragrance that way, and I love doing that. I even love mixing different perfumes together. If you've never done that, definitely worth a try. Sometimes you come up with something disgusting and you're like, I'm gonna go wash this off. But sometimes you're like, whoa, this is amazing. So for example, the Elizabeth & James Nirvana Black and White, I know that fragrance is now discontinued, but I still have it in my collection. I always pair those two together. Like they were meant to be together in my eyes. And so when I use one, I use the other, and I just literally spray them on top of each other. So definitely find maybe a body lotion that you really like the smell of that pairs with a lot of the fragrances that you tend to gravitate towards. And that's kind of a fun way to also not only create a new fragrance, but again, extend the wear of your, whatever you're wearing, whether it's the perfume, whether it's an eau de toilette, it's gonna help. Okay, so let's talk about where on the body are kind of the best places to apply your different sprays. I think for me, my favorite personal places are the wrist, the crook of the elbow, and also behind the knees. Those are the areas that I typically tend to spray. Now, I try to stick with only two, and most of the time it's gonna be my wrist and it's gonna be right here. Your veins, all of that kind of stuff are closest to the skin here, so it heats up the skin a little bit more. And when you like ever so slightly warm up a perfume, it really does cause it to project a lot further. So definitely those are great areas. Behind the knees, I will often do mostly during the summertime if I'm wearing a summer dress, and I love the way that the fragrance sort of wafts up. And again, that's another area where, you know, it tends to get pretty warm. So those are my favorite areas. A lot of people spray behind the ears. They spray on their neck. Sometimes I will, if I'm wearing like an eau de toilette, I will also spray it like down my shirt on the old cleavage. That certainly warms up, and it can help an eau de toilette project a lot further than it would otherwise. The areas that I'm not the biggest fan of for spraying your perfumes are, I don't really like behind the ears because I feel like it's too much for me. I don't mind like here, but when it's like this close to my nose, it's a bit too much for me. I also am not a big fan of spraying on the neck, and that is because there's a lot of alcohol in perfume, and if you are someone who is looking to not age your neck any faster than it might already be aging, don't spray something with a high content of alcohol onto the old neck meat. You're just gonna undo all of that skincare that you plopped on there to try to keep your neck looking smooth and supple and younger. So I would say maybe spray like the back of your neck here before kind of hosing down this area. I'm okay with the chest. I tend to put a lot of like lotion here anyway, so I think that acts as a little bit of a buffer, but I'm not as concerned about this area aging because it really hasn't aged very much on me, but my neck has had a lot more sun exposure over the years, and so that is looking a little bit older, so I just avoid the neck area altogether. Another area that a lot of people tend to spray their perfumes is in their hair. And again, alcohol on your hair, it's going to potentially be drying. As someone with naturally gray hair, I don't like drying out my hair if I don't have to. So I do not spray it in my hair. You know, there's a lot of people that will spray their perfumes in the air and then walk through them. I think that's a nice way to get like a light dusting. But again, you are risking getting it in your hair that way. And I am just not about aging myself any faster than nature is trying to like force me to. So those are kind of the key areas. Really the best are any of the areas where you maybe are able to see some of your veins. Also don't, most of us are we should be washing our hands frequently. Don't apply it too close to your hands, because when you wash your hands, oftentimes you're going up on your wrist here and you're just gonna wash that fragrance away. So don't waste your product that way. Put it up a little bit further up here. So this is typically where I tend to spray. So those are kind of the key areas. We talked about not rubbing the fragrance. Reapplication. Here's the thing, that you're probably gonna have to reapply your fragrance throughout the day. I do it every day. I reapply. I have a pretty large collection, like I said, so I don't feel like I'm wasting product that way. Most of my perfumes, my eau de parfums, last anywhere from 3 to 4 to sometimes 6 to 7 hours, depending on the type of fragrance. More intense fragrances, I think, last longer. Also, your skin type makes a big difference. So oily skin does tend to hold on to fragrance longer. So I got that going for me. I am super oily, so I guess that's the one benefit for me. But if you have a drier skin type, fragrances can certainly evaporate a lot faster. Also, your natural pH is going to affect the fragrance, so something to keep in mind. The acidity of the skin really can affect how long a fragrance lasts on you. So if you're someone who feels like your perfume fades really quickly, that might have to do with your skin's pH levels. Also, oily skin can make a lot of fragrances smell a lot sweeter. That happens to be a good thing for me because I tend to like sweeter fragrances, but you know, most importantly, I think you have to try a perfume on. A lot of times, I think a lot of people will buy something just based on the scent notes. You don't know how that's gonna smell on you. So make sure you, wherever you're purchasing your perfume from, either you're able to go and try it on in person, or that they have a good return or exchange policy if you're purchasing online, just so that you know, you're not spending money on something that you're gonna hate. And perfumes smell different on different people. You know, I've had girlfriends over who have tried on some of my perfumes just to, like, you know, kind of play around with them, and they smell them on themselves and they're like, this is gross. This does not smell anything like how it smells on you. And it has to do with your own personal body chemistry. One last thing that I wanted to mention before closing this video out is try not to spray your perfumes on your jewelry. I do think that, you know, the oils and the alcohol are not great for jewelry. So whether it's costume jewelry or whether you have gold or, you know, diamonds or other gemstones, pearls, try to avoid getting it on those, because I think that can damage your jewelry pieces. So anyway, those are just a few of my tips and tricks that I learned from this. I wish I could remember her name, but I have the worst memory at this point in my life. But this woman taught me a lot of these tips and tricks. And like I said, I've been using them for a whole lot of years now, and they have really served me well. And yeah, I'm just a big fan of personal fragrance, and I thought that I would share these with you. Hopefully they're helpful. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments down below. Check out the description box below this video. I will put a link to my perfume collection. I'll kind of list a few of my perfumes that I would consider my holy grails. If you guys are interested in other perfume content, definitely let me know in the comments. And yeah, this is definitely something that I could get into doing a little bit more frequently because it is like a huge passion for me. So I hope you have a great rest of your day. Please subscribe if you're new. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.